Hello, Laker fans. I hope you're all having a great weekend. This is a little bit of a different episode. It is a special episode, as I'm sure you've seen by the title or the tweet before you clicked on this. Um, it's a conversation that I had with a member of the South Bay Lakers staff a few weeks back, but I have just come around to editing it and releasing it now. It's taken a little bit longer than I wanted it to. It was recorded about 2 weeks ago. So it's with Misha Cavaye of the South Bay Lakers, who are the Lakers G League affiliate team. And he's the strength and conditioning coach there, and he's also the equipment manager. I got to know him when I went over to the Lakers practice facility in El Segundo, and that's how the connection was made. And he's happily jumped onto the podcast. So I won't take up much more of your time. I'll let it jump straight in to the pod, and it'll just be a bit of a normal intro, and then we'll get into the conversation. It is quite lengthy, but it is a very good conversation. So I hope you enjoy, guys. Hello, Laker fans. Welcome to another episode of the Late Late Show podcast. I'm your host, Matt, from Lakers Fan Club UK, covering your Los Angeles Lakers from the United Kingdom. I'm joined by a special guest for this episode. He's the strength and conditioning coach for the South Bay Lakers, who are the Lakers G League affiliate franchise. He's British as well. His name is Misha Cavaye. How are you, Misha? Thanks for jumping on the podcast.
It's an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you for having me. I was very excited to meet you that day you showed up at our facility, because I was like, oh great, this is a wonderful way for me to connect back with England, and it's great to be on your podcast.
Yeah, it was great to see you when we visited the practice facility. I was going to mention that briefly for the listeners. So me and Misha have met before. This isn't the first time that we have spoke. We did meet when I visited the Lakers practice facility in El Segundo back in September, and we had a long chat, and we spoke to a few members of the South Bay Lakers, and we just hung out. Really, it was really cool to take that in. So yeah, we appreciate everything that you did for me and Tina. And we're actually coming back over there in February, and we look to go to a South Bay Lakers game as well.
Yeah, please do. Very exciting G League atmosphere. Definitely more small time with the crowds and such, but they're fast-paced, high-scoring games. You get to see these sort of standout college players that might not be quite so NBA level, to former NBA star sons. We have a couple on our team, as well as NBA rookies that are just getting a lot more playing time. So you should definitely come check us out. And then same to any fan, you should always check out a G League game either on Facebook or come if you're ever in the States. They're great fun, great atmosphere.
Yeah, definitely, and we'll be for sure making our way down there. But in terms of what we're going to get into with the podcast, we'll start from the beginning, if that's okay. So you were born and brought up in the United Kingdom, is that correct? And then you moved over to the United States for college? And have you always been into basketball? That's kind of three questions in one, but it's kind of your upbringing.
Absolutely. So, well, the only thing I wasn't born in London. My parents, they do teaching in Japan. So at the time they were living in Japan. My sister was born, and then I was born. My sister was about to start school, and that's when my parents didn't want us to be raised in a Japanese education system. So it was a decision like, okay, we'll move back to London, which is where my dad was from. So that's where basically born in Tokyo, Japan, but raised in London throughout 18 years. And yes, never really, I had fun playing football, but I never really just loved it or wanted to go out and play. When I discovered basketball, somehow it just really captivated my mind, and it just drew me. The NBA game drew me a lot too. Actually, the NBA game was heavily influential. Just wanting to be a part of that, wanting to be in the NBA as a player initially. So yeah, tried my very best to make it out to the US for junior college. I was never recruited or anything. I was lucky to have a few family friends, not even family members, but family friends in California. So I went to their areas to check out local junior colleges and speak to the coaches, and you'd get sort of brushed off by many, but some would actually give you a few honest answers and you feel like you had a shot. For me, that was Santa Monica College in Los Angeles, although it was probably one of the harder places for me to go because you're in the LA junior college scene, which is just an absolute, you're full of the most athletic, some of the best, all trying to make it. But nonetheless, I tried my best at age 18. Been living in LA ever since. And yeah, just been pretty much ride or die basketball. Very un-English of me, I know. But and these days I'm actually American, so I'm a complete traitor.
No, that's it's in terms of basketball captivating you when you were younger. It's the same with me really, and a lot of other people I have seen in the past few years that basketball is really starting to draw people in, and people are really impressed with the speed of the game and how dynamic the game can be. And to be honest with you, in the past few years, I've actually leaned more towards basketball than I have like football/soccer traditionally what people follow in the UK. So
Yeah. However, interestingly enough, these days, as I'm getting really into like the sports science, biomechanics, footwork, all that, now I'm actually really appreciating football. Now I actually think it's the best thing basketball players could be doing for their footwork. Actually, even at this elite level, basketball players are terrible with their feet. They're very clumsy. Somehow they're good at dancing, you put on a good hip hop song, they're really good at dancing. But even if it's some agility stuff that I implement, sometimes they look lost. And yeah, basketball moves they can get, but then there's always that player that struggles with, the footwork drill or whatever. So it's like, I actually think, soccer is football. Football is one of the better things you could be doing. And then you go look at people like Steve Nash, or any European player that was good in the NBA. They had football skills. Manu Ginobili, obviously South American, and actually Kobe Bryant learned to do a few, football kick-up skills here and there. He could play a bit, and that's because he wanted to appreciate the game. So, not to talk about football, but I just feel like these days it's changed, because now I think it would have helped. But at the time, I was just wanting something different. The grass is greener on the other side, as they say, and I was captivated by this game that. It was, there's still a buzz about it in England, and this is why when I really wanted to talk on your podcast, because I always feel like basketball has a buzz in England, but it's just not there. It doesn't have the rich traditions. It doesn't have the knowledge and wealth behind it, and of course, financially is always an issue, but that will always be an issue anyway. So. I just feel like England has had this potential, but it's just not getting fulfilled. But slowly but surely, and I think the NBA game, now that we're having some preseason games over in England, I think it's just developing. Slowly but surely, you're seeing a few more English players, bask some time in the NBA, not very long, but it's all about just keeping it going. And as you know, it's a process. It's a long process.
Definitely, and it was interesting early on. You were speaking about like the mechanics of the game and footwork and things like that, and obviously that's very much your forte now within the role that you have at South Bay. So I was going to lead on to, we got to college where you very much got into playing basketball and you gave it your best shot. So the question that I have to you is that period from college to being with the South Bay Lakers. So what path occurred to get you into sports science and strength and conditioning, and what path occurred to take you to your current role with the South Bay Lakers, and how long have you been with the franchise for now?
Okay, yeah. So now I'll just start just answering by my time was spent with the organization, and then I'll go to the very beginning. I'm going into my fourth season with South Bay, but overall ninth season with the Lakers. And here's how the journey went down. So yeah, junior college basketball was very tough. I didn't really play much. I managed to play just 1 year, and then I sort of sat out a year here and there just because the coach told me I wouldn't be playing much and I was too prideful. And so I would like do this what they call the red shirt year, and it just really became silly. I actually even sort of think back and sometimes think I should have just, you should have just done it. Just sit on the bench. You never know who gets injured, and the next thing you know, you'll be playing. You should never listen to a coach when they say they're not going to play you, because the season is so long and things just change. But anyway, I sort of just never really sort of played much. Played that 1 year, dabbled around with a couple of teams, redshirting. And after that, I decided, all right, I'm going to get into the field of coaching, because I always wanted to be a basketball career person, even if I wasn't going to make it professionally. And that's why I wanted to go to America. So I started to, intern. They call internships, free work, free labor in America, was the junior college team, and then I went to complete my 4-year degree, Division I team. I got to be their video coordinator. That involves arranging scouting film and breaking down film for play categories for coaches to watch to see how well we executed on plays. So that was a really good experience. A small-time Division I. I would have wanted to be a part of a big-time Division I, like a UCLA, USC, but I didn't get into those schools. I went to smaller-time one, but I got a better experience out of it. Meanwhile, doing a sports science degree, basic exercise science, nothing too fancy. I'm thinking I was going into coaching this whole time, and it wasn't until my final year that I decided to then also intern with the strength and conditioning department, because I figured I should probably know about how to train athletes if I'm going to be a coach. I never know what level I could end up, and I might be also in charge of conditioning, so I should know that. And through that time spent in the strength and conditioning department, I sort of fell in love with that part. I was always into lifting weights myself. I was always one of the most well-conditioned players on the team in junior college. So that sort of went hand in hand. And then the degree I had, now I was applying these things I was learning. Plus, I was into the sport of basketball. So it really just sort of just captivated my mind. I graduated. I was done with the team working for free and all that. And the first job offer I got was actually being a personal trainer at a gym local to me. It was a fancy gym, Equinox. I know they've probably opened in London, or they will soon. So it was a nice sort of fancy place to be a part of. They were really good at education, so I got some in-house training there, and I sort of started to learn the importance of injuries then, more so than at college. So then you really start understanding how important it is to, whether it's an athlete or an average human, to treat the injury before you aim for performance, because more often than not that it's injury that holds back the performance. So that's sort of when my love for injuries and biomechanics developed. My time at Equinox was short-lived because they are very hardcore on sales, and I was not a salesman, so I didn't last very long there. And very fortunately, after I got let go from there, a friend calls me up from Santa Monica College. Actually, he was working with the team there, and he was working for the Lakers at the time, and asked me, do you want to be a ball boy for the Defenders? At the time, it was the LA Defenders. And the Lakers were in the lockout year. This was 2011 going into 12. There was the lockout strike year, I believe. Yeah. So there was I was like, okay, of course, absolutely. I was unemployed. I'll definitely be a ball boy for the defenders. And it was into the second game of the season, and I was in charge of rebounding pre-game. And because I used to play and I had a lot of pride, I was rebounding and just absolutely hustling and doing my best and being really quick on my feet. And that's when the Lakers equipment manager, who was back on work recently, lockout ended, and needed some extra help, saw me working my hardest, and then said, hey, I would like to bring you on as a ball boy for the Lakers. So that little sort of thing, I was like, I almost got immediately hired by both teams, even though they're the same company, but it was sort of harder to get on with the Lakers at the time. It was really hard. So I was very much fortunate to be at the right place, right time. And so thus began my entry with the organization, first as a ball boy, and I soon got promoted to being an assistant equipment manager, semi full-time or seasonal full-time, not traveling, but basically staying at the facility and working all the home games and dealing with all the gear and preparing all the laundry and gear for the road, the different uniforms, and providing all the different accessories where players need it, and all this sort of stuff. And that's actually what I still do for the South Bay on a lesser scale, because we don't provide as many luxurious things. But it was sort of my expertise and entry into the South Bay job because they needed an equipment manager. So before I even get into that, I'm doing this, work for the Lakers as an assistant equipment manager. Very, very fortunate to work alongside Kobe Bryant, his former 5 seasons. Few occasions got to even connect with him, but not much. He was very injured and out of the building at the time, so not very present. However, one of the more fortunate experiences, I would say, in his final 2 years, he had this private therapist that he would be working with for pre-games, just because I guess they didn't want the Lakers sports medicine to take too much attention on him when they had the rest of the team. So he had this private therapist, and because in Staples you have Lakers locker room, you had visiting locker room, and then you have the LA Kings hockey locker room, and that's where Kobe would always go in with his private therapist. And the visiting team locker room was always next to that, and that's where I was actually during Laker games would work. I would be in charge of visiting team locker rooms. Which was a great experience for the 5 seasons I did that. Even though I was never actually around the Lakers bench for 5 seasons, I was always around the visiting team bench. But my perk to that was I got to meet all the strength coaches, all the physiotherapists, all of the sports performance people I needed to meet. And meanwhile, picking brains and learning the things I needed to learn to be ready for this job if it ever came available. But anyway, so like I said, and here we are, this Kobe's private therapist is trying to work with Kobe in the locker room, empty locker room next to mine. I was the one who was able to let him in on numerous times, and then we connected, and he taught me a few things, and so all these little sort of experiences sort of built me up to really wanting to be a sports performance specialist, meeting all these people, learning tricks from the ones who had the special skills, but sort of getting advanced info from the most advanced people in the field is what sort of set me up to being really saying like, okay, I want to be a strength coach. However, also at the time, I saw how important these injury and hands-on skills were needed. And even though I did not have an educational background in that, I realized I needed some sort of hands-on skills because that's what everybody sort of had. So I decided to sort of go into massage therapy just to get my basic hands-on licensing. I did an additional course on human body biomechanics, posture, fascia, that sort of stuff. That was a very sort of advanced skill that I had that was big time in giving me, a sort of this recognition of being a massage therapist as sports massage therapist and strength coach combo, which is what I take great pride in being. And so while I built that up, then when Kobe retired, a lot of staff members sort of shifted around, moved around, and that's when the LA Defenders, which were soon to be renamed South Bay Lakers, they decided to now, instead of just have one, what we have in America, athletic trainers. They're usually the first responders if a guy falls down or bleeds or whatever. We do have physios. They're the more long-term rehab, but athletic trainers are more your instant patch up, get you going people. So usually there's always, every team has one of those, and previously the LA Defenders just had that person to do strength, equipment, and everything, and it was obviously not very well organized and very players were not well maintained. But now they could foresee that the G League was going to be a bigger, well invested league, and so they opened up a new strengths and equipment manager position that I was ready to sort of take as it was a new thing they implemented, and I was already had the equipment managing skills. They knew I was knowledgeable in the field of strength and conditioning. They knew I had licensed massage therapy, so I could also offer that and assist the athletic trainer who works with injuries. So it sort of became this very lucky sort of, I was again right place, right time for the strength coach position in South Bay, which nowadays looking around, it's such a valuable position. The G League is, there's no better place for development, especially at the professional level, than the G League. I mean, it is just, you get it's trial and error at its absolute finest. You get wonderful, the finest players in America who are just hungry for your work. They want it. Because they want to get to the next level. The unfortunate aspect of the NBA is that there are so many specialists, there are so many professionals, there's so many employees for different positions. Lackeys to the lackeys, as you would say, and that's when you sometimes will have to, your skill set will get left out because you might have to conform to what somebody else wants you to do, or you might not get to work with as many people. Whereas at the G League, it will be just you, and that's your team, and they will do whatever you want. And that's just been amazing. I can't put a price on how valuable that is. I would love to get into the NBA one day, but for now, the value of what I have does not exceed that limelight. Because at the NBA, you will not have that much control. You will never have that much control, actually, because there will just be too many people who have control, as well as players who have their own play. Usually, there's a big thing in the NBA is the my guy. I'll bring my guy, and every player has their guy they wants to bring, and that's fine. And maybe I will be somebody's guy one day, and I would love to do that. But for now, just being, having this team. It's been absolutely wonderful. So going into year 4 and hopefully winning a championship with my team one day, that's absolutely what I would love to do. Because we have yet to win. The LA Defenders / South Bay Lakers have never won a G League championship, despite being the first minor league team to be actually owned by an NBA team and share the same building for that matter.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of your journey to your current role, it is, like you said, right place, right time, luck. But it also sounds like there's a lot of persistence and a lot of hard work that's gone on there. So it is one hell of a story. As you were going through that, it was quite inspiring, really. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners will find it inspiring as well. And it's a really impressive journey to where you to where you currently are. So with your role then, do you travel with the team then? What's like your general game day duties?
Yeah, so now, I'm full time. So it's a good working schedule in the sense that our season, which is shorter than the NBA's, we started in the beginning of November, where NBA is already starting mid-October, and we'll be done by end of March. And our playoffs are very quick. There's single game elimination. Finals get best of three. So that's a way shorter season than the NBA. It's very impacted, very full time. Off days are almost non-existent, especially for me, because off days mean no practice. No practice means players might need treatment, or they might want lifts. Or sometimes there'll be equipment, laundry stuff that I have to do. Fortunate for me, today is actually one of those days I did get an off day because nobody needed anything and I didn't have to do any laundry or anything. But you're just full demand. You're very on, because everybody is working numerous positions, wears many hats, as they would say, because even like I said, we have this the sports injury specialist, athletic trainer. They are in charge of all traveling, sort of details, coordinating with buses and whatnot and all that. I'm managing equipment on the travel on the end and all that. So we all wear many hats. But the good thing is, when we're out of season, we have an easy, when we're off work essentially. So you don't have anything going on for a few months of the year, minus the NBA Summer League. We're all involved with that. But anyway, we'll focus on the season for now, our season. So on a game day, if we're at home, so we'll always have the morning shoot around practice session, which is very short, about an hour. But, we open up the treatment sort of time block 2 hours before practice. So I'm always there. You have to be present, but usually people don't need a whole lot, especially in the very first section of the day. There's so many treatment sessions within a day that you'll get players coming. But in that initial time, not many people coming. They'll slowly trickle in. We'll get through the morning practice. After that, usually players will need some treatments, or sometimes they'll just leave. I then set up for the game, just the uniforms and whatnot. I will stay at the facility. I won't go home because it's just not worth it with LA traffic. So I'll just work out at the facility, and then usually as soon after that, we're ready to open up the treatment block time again. However, I'm sooner or later spending my time in the weight room waiting for our pre-game shooting pre-activation groups to come. So obviously before the game, you have groups that go out to sort of warm up. This is all and all done before they come out and do their whole layup lines, right? Before everybody has their sort of shooting groups. So you have your if you go back from tip off, you have the layup group line. Before that, everybody's in the locker room. That's when coaches are doing their sort of last talk before the game. Before that, you actually have guys out on the court, but they'll always be in groups and doing their sort of game routine. And before that, they'll always be in with me for a quick 10 minutes in the weight room. And that's something it's pretty big in the NBA as far as, getting with a strength and conditioning coach before your, on-court time. A lot of the NBA guys actually like lifting weights. We don't have that luxury in the G League, and me being more of a biomechanical specialist, I usually have enough that I can work with and warm guys up with without needing to lift heavy weights. But it's a pretty common thing, and our head coach Kobe Carl, the son of George Carl, Hall of Famer, to be or whatever. He was very big on making this compulsory for the team. My first year, it was his first year as a head coach too. Not much going on with the sort of pre-game warm-up until I had until we had one of the former San Antonio Spurs on our team who was very dedicated professional. He connected with me, and that's when it's sort of like, oh, I like doing this pregame warm-up thing, and I had he liked my stuff, and I realized I had a knack for it. Then I started my second year. I started having 5 or 6 guys coming to me for their sort of warm-up, and our head coach started to see like, oh, he's pretty good at this, and that's when he said, all right, we want everybody to go see him before they get to the court. So I'm doing that for the whole sort of pregame time. And then, once we have the last group, I head on into the locker room, get changed, whatever. And then it's game time. And that's usually, easy for me. I do always help give water still to the players and such. That was my job, while I was a ball boy in the NBA. But nowadays, I still take pride in doing that because, A, I get to monitor their hydration, what they're drinking, whatnot. And B, it just makes me feel more involved, and I like that. The G League, again, it's more of a family, and you really want these guys to get it, and there's so much passion behind it. So I just want to be there for them, and that's why I enjoy giving water still during the timeouts and whatnot. Sometimes, again, if I'm at home, I might be running around doing some laundry stuff in between, just multitasking. And then but the good thing is at home now I have ball boys, or at least a ball girl, one, for just a small group that will help me. Sort of, it's funny how it's come all full circle, but so that's a little easier at home, because I have that help. So if we're just on the flip side on the road, everything's different because now you have to travel 2 places. So we usually from the hotel just go straight to the arena, have our morning shoot around, come back to the hotel room, do a treatment block, and then go in the afternoon, go back to the arena, and then that's when I do again my pre-game warm up on the baseline, set up my bands and pads on the floor, and they do their little routine and head to the court. So game days are pretty full day. The good thing is at home we get fed, and even on the road we get some sort of takeaway meal provided, but they're not very good always. But it's just a full day from pretty much 9 in the morning till about 10:30 at night. Yeah, there'll be a time in between for a nap, but these days I like to work out because that usually gets left behind if not. So it's a full day regardless.